Cuphead is a game all about defeating bosses and going for a high grade, but what if we tried the opposite? Okay, so for starters, we will be loading out my save file that has already gone in the game 300%. This is because we will be playing in simple mode for the entirety of the challenge, and we all know that you can't get the soul contracts unless you beat the bosses in regular mode. So to get the lowest grades possible, we need to meet all of these requirements. Spend over 4 minutes on the fire, which is probably the hardest of them all. Have 1 HP, not parry a single time, not use a single EX move, which also means no super arts, and be playing on simple mode. Meeting all these requirements will give you that sweet D minus. Now without any further hesitation, let's jump straight into it. But just a quick reminder, subscribing would seriously help me out a ton, so please consider subscribing. Starting off with the root pack. The only thing different about this fight in simple mode than in regular mode is the lack of the entire second phase for some reason. This happens quite a lot in the fights, but it becomes a huge game saver later on. The tactics I used in this fight was just standing behind the potato in the beginning phase because he couldn't hit me there, and I was able to survive the 4 minutes without any casualties. Mostly. Then from there I simply took him out and began the second phase. All I did in this phase was bring my health down to 1 and just took out the carrot, securing myself to D-. Next up was Goopily Grande, who was missing his tombstone phase. I just waited it out by carefully dodging his attacks for 4 minutes before losing my health and delivering the final blow. Next up is Ribby and Croaks, which were quite a challenge even in simple mode. I chose to wait out the 4 minutes in his first of 2 phases where he just flung his fists and sent out his little firefly thingies. Does anyone know what these are called? Let me know down in the comments. Anyways, after I played the waiting game, I made quick work of the first phase. Then from there I beat the final phase, which for some reason had Ribby ice sink, throwing his fist while Croaks ice sink was doing his wind attack. Ribby still did the ball thing though, and I still got the D-. Now it's time for Hildeberg, who still had lots of things going on for his so-called simple mode, but I haven't played in a while, so it's most likely a skill issue. What I did was pass all of her phases up into the final one, where I would spend the remainder of the 4 minutes and lose my health till I have 1 left. Once the timer had finished and I was ready to take her out, I gladly did and secured the D-. Next up is Cagney Carnation, where you guessed it, I spent the 4 minutes waiting in the easiest phase, and luckily I was so smart that I purposefully lost all my HP till I had 1 left, which definitely did not backfire horribly. Anyways, once I did that, I managed to defeat him pretty easily and finish up World 1. That was pretty easy. Surely the rest of the time shouldn't be an issue at all. For some reason, Baroness was stupidly difficult. She usually isn't ever that hard when you don't need to worry about waiting. But the thing is, we do need to wait. In fact, I just could never do it unless I were to get the bubblegum guy up. But after a few hours, I finally managed to wait it out, lost my HP in the final phase, and was finally able to defeat her. Now it's Digimate time. After trying to spend the 4 minutes in the first phase and miserably failing, I decided to wait it out on its third phase, where I pretty much had a safe spot at the top of the screen. But once I spent the 4 minutes, I went on to the final phase and got the D-. Next up is Beppy the Clown. For this fight, I just waited around during the first phase where I jumped around Beppy and used Crackshot to shoot down the ducks. For the second phase, he was sending balloons out at me and there weren't any cards involved. And for the final phase, there were horses which were easily defeated. After defeating all of his phases, I secured the D-. Now it's Wally Warble's time. Firstly, I tried to spend 4 minutes in the first phase, but they kept failing, so I chose to try doing it in the third phase. Past his first and second phase, where I promptly spent 4 minutes during his third, where I sent feathers all over the screen. After that, I beat the phase and continued on with the final, and I easily beat him first try. Anyways, after that death, I managed to earn the D-. All we have left of World 2 now is Grim Matchstick. For him, I just sat around in the little clouds and stayed towards the top parts of the clouds to survive the hot bowls he threw at me. I like to stay at the back to determine the pattern I was moving in. With the rings, I avoided them by quickly jumping and dashing over them. After that, his tail popped up for the next phase. I waited for the tail to be in a specific spot where I would then move forward. For the final phase, he had the fire coming out of his tongue where I would juke them. Once that was finished, I easily took him out and got that D-. Surely World 3 will be just as easy as that. Okay, but seriously though, Rumor was ridiculously hard. Every phase was so incredibly difficult to spend the 4 minutes on. The difference is in simple mode, it's just the lack of the final phase and the platforms move slower. As I said, the hardest part was lasting 4 minutes. In fact, I accidentally used a super out at one point during the fight after I'd lasted 4 minutes. After that, I just completely unmapped the EX button. But if I didn't need to spend 4 minutes, this boss would have ended sooner than I had begun. But nonetheless, after a few attempts, I got the D-. Next up is Briny Beard. He was incredibly easy. He wouldn't attack at all during the first phase besides a barrel, so I just kept going back and forth till I spent 4 minutes. And then I just lost my health before taking him out and securing a D-. Now it's time for Sally's stage play. I chose to wait it out in our final phase. Now luckily I've had smoke dash this whole time, so I simply dashed through the waves that she sent my way, because I couldn't parry the starfish. After doing all this, I figured out that it doesn't count as parry anyways. Then I lost my health and got the D-. Okay, so now it's time for Werner Werman. I spent 4 minutes in his first phase because for some reason his second phase in simple mode is harder than it is in regular mode. He decides to roll around for some reason, which means it did take a little bit of getting used to, but once I got a hang of it, he was history, of which I was writing. Dr. Carl's robot only had his first phase, which included these pink things that were required to be parried or else it would damage me. But I couldn't parry it because then I would get a high grade, so what did I do? Easy, I just took out the middle, then I took out the bottom and lasted 4 minutes while carefully dodging all of his attacks. When the timer went off, I had simply taken out the top and finally the heart, which got me the D-. Next is Cala Maria. Now the thing with her is that it is immensely difficult to last throughout a first phase. However, there is a safe spot in our final phase where I don't even need to dodge anything for the remaining time. When that was all said and done, I lost my remaining health till I only had 1 left and happily took her out and got that D-. Here we are, the final boss, Phantom Express. I can't use the card because I think that counts as a parry, so I'll be careful with that. Now let's see what phases this guy has. He's got the eye hand thing, the skeleton part, those lollipop things, and then the part where I parry the... Wait. After all this, is this seriously where it ends? The final phase of the final boss? Well, not really. As I said earlier, some phases are just cut out in simple mode, and thankfully this is one of those phases. Besides that really close call, I beat all phases up until the final one, which is the lollipop things. There's a safe spot on the far left and far right. After that, I finally got the final D-. Well, that's it. All bosses with the lowest grade possible. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. And if you're wondering why I didn't do Inkwell Hell, it's because you can't have simple mode on them. But if this video gets enough attention, I may even do a part 2 where I get the lowest grades on those fights as well. I'd even do the DLC if you guys want me to. And before I go, I want to tell you guys to not leave a single comment below this video with less than 2 replies. If you find one, then please reply to it. Later.
Mr. King Dice, I'm the gamest in the land. I never play nice, I'm the devil's right-hand man. I can't let you pass, cause you ain't done everything. Bring me those contracts, come on, bring them to the king. If you haven't finished your class, haven't worked assiduously, no, I cannot let you pass. Don't you mess with me. Don't mess with King Dice. Don't mess with me. Don't mess with King Dice. Don't mess with me. I'm Mr. King Dice. He just what I say. The devil has his price, and I'll make sure you pay.